It's really hard. You know, the classic studies on the taking charge process for new bosses, new leaders, were actually done inside GE decades ago. And the lessons were it takes 2 years to learn a new job.
Oh.
He doesn't have 2 years to learn the job.
He doesn't have a year to learn the job.
No, he's through the taking hold process, and usually a person immerses themselves to see how people respond to whatever you've done. He doesn't have that luxury. Right now, he's just pounded each day with, it seems, the tidal waves of bad news. You know, of course, the disappointing quarter as he stepped in, the big write-downs, the bad news on the dividends that they issued out there, the accounting investigation as if there's anything scandalous taking place there. It's like, how do you get out from under the bad news is hard. And when you take a look at great turnaround leaders, I don't know, Bob Iger of GE or others, they were able to present a vision, a positive scenario. Here, it's just like this catching the falling knife. How bad is bad each day?
Bob Iger at Disney, yeah. One of the issues he's faced with, though, he has said he's heard from a lot of people who have a lot of interest in different GE assets. What needs to be done? What needs to be sold off? Should there be an IPO? He's saying at this point that they're not going to issue more equity. At least that's not in the plans. It
seems like a mixed message when you listen to David's interview. At one hand, he's reassuring people that we have stuff that we can put up for sale to deal with the cash problem, if there is one. And he says there isn't one. We have the $20 billion of cash. But, of course, our JP Morgan analyst tells us today they've got $100 billion of reasonably short-term liabilities coming their way. How are they going to pay it off? How are they going to pay off the debt, rather, that's coming their way? And they don't really have that much cash. So he's saying, well, we can heave things off. Perhaps the healthcare business he knows so well is the one that people talk about. He knew that very well from Danaher.
Why IPO that, though? Why not sell it?
You know, whether or not he could get the right price for it is whether or not Danaher themselves could be a buyer or somebody. But it could be some of it is the size of it to buy it, too, is hard to digest it. All in all, it's just a reminder of what people were complained about for decades about these highly diversified conglomerates, that when Tyler and I started our careers, there were these LTV and ITT and all these things. For the most part, they've largely fallen by the wayside of these highly diversified conglomerates. They never made a lot of sense. And people like at Harvard, Michael Porter used to attack GE in particular, saying it's just on borrowed time. And others were saying, well, I don't know, they're proving the rule wrong. They made it work. But obviously, now these really disjointed pieces don't fit together.
Yeah, the conglomerates have gone out of fashion, but mark my words, there will come a time, maybe after you and I are long retired, that the investment bankers will decide that they're back in fashion.
Put them back together again.
And that these disparate business assets will be better together than they are separately. Let me ask a different kind of question here. Is it harder to be Mr. Culp coming in from the outside trying to do what he's doing than it would have been for yet another insider to do what he's doing?
You know, I think that's a great question, because the insiders, the research suggests that usually insiders make the more profound changes than the outsider. They know where the bodies are buried, and they have some goodwill with the board. Unfortunately, in this case, this is the board that fired him, John Flannery, this predecessor, is not the board that hired him. That board really wasn't fully on board till late June. They signed off on this new strategy in late June, announced in July, and then as they begin to execute it in the doldrums of the summer in August, they fire him 2 weeks later. It seemed a little hasty. Now,
well, with these investigations, I think that changes the picture, too. It's very difficult to bring in an insider to be doing something like that.
Yeah.
So the idea of new broom sweeping clean, I don't know, the old Rastafarian proverb was, new broom sweep clean, but old brooms know the corners, is somebody who knows what's there. In this case, though, this is a guy who understands industrial conglomerates. He's very well thought of. People don't talk about him at all today, but Tom Horton, his chairman, is just as savvy. He's done a fantastic job and contemporary in age at American Airlines. So I think as a great leadership team, they have a lot of promise, but you wonder who wants to take this job